Hi, and welcome to Unshaken Voices. It's a podcast about real stories of either mental health struggles, grief, loss, traumas, and recovery and caretaking. So I'm Denise Pimentel, and I'm so glad that you're here. A little bit about the podcast. So many people out there are walking through things like mental health crisis quietly. They don't want people to know. They're embarrassed. They're ashamed, even though this is something that they may have done nothing to have this come upon them, because there is a huge genetic component to this. So that is key to a lot of mental illnesses that are passed down from generation to generation. But there are things you can do to keep the mental illness from basically coming to life. So whether you have trauma, mental illness, whatever it is, anything that is testing your faith, this is a podcast for you to either come on the show or just check it out. Especially like it talking about what it takes to keep going when life doesn't go the way you planned, because a lot of times things just show up out of nowhere. I didn't grow up knowing I had a mental illness. It just one day came to life, and it's pretty scary. So, a little disclaimer: Unshaken Voices is not a crisis resource or a substitute for professional help. It is just born out of lived experiences, and it's not a theory. There is no quick fix. So just keep seeing your doctors, do what you need to do to keep yourself in a good place. So I started the first episode with Ryan, my husband, because he's the person who's walked beside me through my hardest seasons. And he has a perspective as a caretaker / husband of someone with a mental illness. So I'm going to bring him on. Hi, Rye.
Hello,
welcome
sweetheart.
back. Tell us a little bit about you.
52 years old, married to you, father of 3, stepfather to 1, God-fearing, nation-loving husband, son, brother, uncle, father.
Yep.
Nothing I enjoy more than seeing my family safe, happy, and healthy.
Cool. Nice. And you do a great job of that.
I do my best.
You do. So what I'm going to do is ask you some questions. You can give, your input, what you think, do your best. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just maybe something you say will be relatable and help someone else who is also in the position you are as a caretaker of someone with a mental illness, but also someone who had a stroke in December of 2024, which definitely spun our lives out of control for a little bit. So first thing I wanted to talk about is what was your understanding of bipolar disorder before I came into your life?
Before you came into my life, well, probably it was similar to what a lot of other people know or think they know about it, and that's really the news headlines. Uh, Bipolar disorder is associated oftentimes in mainstream media with really bad or abhorrent behavior. Um, some of the worst is what you hear: people that kill and harm, and um, it's attributed to mental illness, history of bipolar, this, that, and whatever. So that was really the extent of my um, knowledge of it. I didn't know anything intimate about it. I didn't know anybody, at least as far as I know, I didn't know anybody with it at the time. With any form that I knew of. Maybe something like depression or anxiety, but it was hidden enough where it didn't even occur to me. So that's about my exposure. That's about the limit of my knowledge of it before we met, before
Okay.
you came into my life.
Okay. And before I was diagnosed with it, all I knew of it was Britney Spears in the news, shaving her head, or running around the neighborhood naked in the street. So when I received this diagnosis, I was like, how can that be? I don't do things like that. So that was my my like knowledge of bipolar disorder. So what went through your mind when you actually realized this mental illness is a serious thing? That would have taken place when I started spiraling the first time.
So the question was, what went through my mind?
So
when
what
I
went
realized it
through
was
your
serious?
mind when you first realized, oh, this is really, because you heard the stories about my past,
Yeah, you were
but
pretty
you never
forthcoming.
experienced it firsthand.
No, right.
So what was going through your mind at that point?
Well, it was nothing like I imagined it would be, nor did I ever think I'd have to go through any of it, because you were, well, the first time with me, you were not medicated anymore, specifically, but you were fine. You were normal for years, and what went through my mind? It was nothing like I imagined. It was nothing like I imagined it would be. The image I had, kind of like you form an image in your head of somebody that you've never met. You've only heard their voice or talked to them on the phone or whatever. They wind up looking nothing like you imagined. Same thing. I didn't. The breakdown, in some ways it was correct. It's somebody who's really, their mind is not there. It's not reliable. But I didn't. It was. It was your behavior as you were spiraling and ultimately crashing that was so markedly different than the behavior which I was accustomed to, your normal everyday behavior, which was kind, loving, funny, fun, and all that stuff, all the good stuff.
Right.
It was
Right.
this other element that was sprinkled in that it really was. It was just like another person,
Yeah.
different
Right.
person entirely. Yeah.
And I am. When I'm manic, I am not me.
No,
I'm a different person. So,
not all the time.
right.
There are there are glimpses and moments and stretches of time where you wouldn't know, and then from one minute to the next, it's that other person switches places with you, kind of thing.
Right. It's true, sadly. And that is something that I tend to worry about sometimes. Just waking up someday. Well, it doesn't happen that way. You don't just wake up manic. It's a gradual descent, which makes it so hard to catch. If it happened right away, it would probably be easier to catch. but
Mm.
it's a gradual descent. Um, okay, was there a moment when you thought this is bigger than I can handle? Like when you would just do I walk away?
Yeah, yeah. It when I was going over the questions, trying to get a feel for what you wanted to talk about. One of the things one of the places where my mind went was I was relating that's this specific question to when you're in trouble as a kid, when you get in big trouble, not little trouble and, go to your room and tomorrow's a new day. Like big trouble, you've done something really big that deserves, you know, a walloping, or a long standing grounding, like you've done real something really bad. And the process in which you're awaiting the reactions from your parents, um, and what's coming. It it's like that it feels like that is never going to end. So that waiting for the ultimate hammer to fall. It's like it's never going to end. And when you were when you were manic, not the second time but the first time, I think that was the fear I was getting, was you were seemingly so far gone. um in my mind, in
Mhm.
reality it was, may have even been minor compared to your previous ones. I don't know, I wasn't there for those. but
Right.
it did at times feel like it was never going to end, and like we're going to be stuck like this forever. Even when you were in the hospital, I know, and part of my brain knew it wasn't reality. It wasn't logical thinking that you were actually going to be in the hospital for the rest of your life. You were not, walking
Even
around
though
banging
I thought that
you weren't doing
sometimes.
the movie stuff thing,
Yeah.
walking around the halls, banging your head. That wasn't what was
Right.
happening. Um, but it's a fear. I mean, you mix in the part that I'm your husband and we have kids at home, and you're not there, and your mind. It's a scary thing thinking that is your mind is wrong. Your mind
Right.
is not working right. And yeah, there were many, quite a few times. I don't want to say many, but quite a few times where I'm like, I can't, I can't handle this. And within reality, I couldn't do it on my own. Fortunately, I have a partner with God and faith that helps me through it. But yeah, there was one time when I was walking with no specific target in mind, and um, God sent someone to bring me back. That was literal. I was actually walking.
Yes. Yes, you were.
Not
I remember.
speaking metaphorically. Someone came and brought me back. Pretty sure it was God bringing me back with that person. And
Hmm.
um, yeah, it was a scary time for me.
That was my dad you're referring to?
I am referring to your dad. Yes,
Oh, it's in my book.
it's all in the book. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Um, so now I wanna, like, talk a little bit about what it's like loving someone through mental illness. So, what do people usually misunderstand about loving someone with bipolar disorder?
I don't know that I could answer that because I don't know. I mean, I hear lots of stories that people put, when people start to go crazy, for just speaking in general terms, whatever that may be, schizophrenia, bipolar, whatever. Um, their friends and family just want them to go away, go into the hospital, go away, get better, come back and see us when you're better, whether that's next week or 10 years from now.
Right.
So I don't really know what I'm not sure I can answer your
Maybe
specific.
sometimes, like, the expectations, like, it takes a long time to get back on track sometimes. Maybe some people don't understand. Like, you had a lot of people helping. You had your sister, you
Yep.
had some not everybody has that. So
Yep.
if you don't have those resources to help you and guide you, then you probably, well, I don't know, but maybe it's hard for some people because, getting back to 100% takes time each
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. It's a it's a hmm. The question has a lot to do with I guess it was the first question you asked, when did you realize it was more than you can handle,
Right.
or at any point in time did you feel like however that question was phrased. And I think that's kind of that almost answers this question. It's this the view the point of view that people have about mental illness, bipolar specifically, gets such a bad rap, such a really negative rap, I should say,
Yeah.
and because of all the things that are associated with it. That's really that's a minute, very small part of what that disease, the illness is. Loving you, there were I've always loved you. I've never stopped loving you. There were times in the first breakdown, um, when, looking back, I can anecdotally say it was virtually impossible to love you because of the way you were behaving,
Oh, yes.
specifically toward me. And so that made it,
Irrational.
yeah, that made it challenging to love you, kind of like when you have a disobedient child that's just disobeying,
Yes.
over and over and over again, and it's like, I'm not sure I love this kid anymore.
Right. Yeah.
um, but you know, it's kind of like you have to keep your eyes downfield. Like, this is not going to last forever. We are going to get
Mhm.
the person that you love, the help they need, whether that's, switch their medication, increase it, whatever, tweak it, or
Therapy.
get them into the hospital because they need
Yeah.
something more intense than just a simple medication fix.
Right.
And then, of course, the maintenance. I mean, it is scary. It is a scary thing to go through, because you're human, and it is, in a lot of ways, it's out of your control as a human. But
Mhm.
but it's when you love someone. This is part of the vows that you take. And those vows should never be taken lightly, for richer, for poor, for better, or for worse. And those times were worse. They were
Yeah.
the
Definitely.
worst.
Yes.
And I had to keep telling myself, this is not permanent reality. This is
Right.
just a valley of darkness we're going through, and eventually we'll get out of it. God will lead us out of it.
Yes, he will, and he did. Um, so let's see. When was when was it that you felt the most helpless, or was there not a point in time?
I wouldn't be able to pinpoint, when I felt the most helpless. Um, but the times that it's when I clearly know what's going on, and you're at that point. And again, it does come and go, even when you're when a person's full on manic. I know what's going on, and but I can't reason with you. I can't have a serious
Oh,
conversation
yes.
with you, and I can't. You're unreachable. And yeah, you hear me, you see me, you're
Right.
interacting, but my words, there's a part of your brain that turns on, that becomes defiant in a way that you're not at all during everyday normal times.
Right.
And you become unreachable. And those are the times that it's the most frustrating, this scariest. I can't remember how you even phrased the question now, but yeah, it's those oh, the when I realized, yeah, it's those times, it's multiple times. It's very frustrating because you're not just trying to cope with you're also have life going on,
Right.
jobs, work, the kids,
Kids. Yeah.
responsibilities, and for the most part you're still doing those things. You were still doing those things, albeit in a different way, and kind of whenever you felt like it, kind of thing. They weren't priorities, but you were still tending
Right.
to them.
So you would just lean on God at that point?
Did a lot of praying.
Yeah.
Yeah. And tried to do the things that you weren't doing or getting around to in a timely fashion. I tried to, do those things.
Right.
I knew I couldn't count on you.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to swap a little bit over to the stroke and the physical recovery with that, because not only did you deal with getting someone through mental illness, but then in December of 2024, I had my stroke, and that presented, it was like, just as everything was good mentally, this happened. So how did the stroke change things for you as a caregiver? From caregiver of someone who has a mental deficit, I don't know the right word, disability, to now literally someone having a physical and almost a life-threatening stroke. So how did that kind of change things in your mind?
Entirely different feeling and experience. When you in your during your breakdowns, it was kind of like it had gotten not quite so much with the second one as much as the first one, but I was waking up preparing to go into battle every day, you know. With this stroke, um, it was actually a little bit more like I became your dad and you were my little girl.
Yeah, I
And
could see that.
you need, and thank God you did not, the stroke affected you in a bunch of little ways, and there wasn't any massive, it wasn't all heavily tilted toward one or two things. It was like a little bit across the spectrum. Your
Right.
your your challenges, thankfully, but it was like I had, I felt father like to you for a while, like you were my little girl, and I had to help you through this for however long it took, of course. But it was scary, but not in the same way that it was scary. Your breakdowns were scary. It was scary that I almost lost you, that our family almost lost you. That was, and scary that you'd been damaged. You were physically damaged, and so it's different. But
Right.
I was not scared of dealing with you the way I may have been during the breakdowns. I was scared of losing you, um, but it was scary just hoping that you were able to regain those things that you had lost because of the stroke. And but it was kind of almost a wonderful thing to to for the relationship to make that turn for a while there, where I was like, I felt like your dad taking care of you.
Yeah.
And and it was a nice feeling because I felt very needed, not like I don't ever feel needed by you.
Right.
But
Mhm.
it was yeah, that was
I
much
definitely
different
saw a
feeling.
new side of you, like tender. I remember like you wouldn't even let me shower alone. Like I had to
You
keep
weren't
the
supposed to.
door
you
open,
you weren't supposed
and
to. Yeah.
and You were just, it was interesting. It
Yeah,
was very, I want to say spoiled, but I mean, gosh, I almost died. So I can see why you were,
that's what a lot
very
of. That's a big way. That's one of the ways that it was so much different from your your breakdowns,
mental.
because
Yeah.
the breakdowns really pushed us apart,
Yes.
and
Yes. Because it
your stroke
pulled us.
really pulled us together. And we were had a great, our relationship was very great. I had no complaints about it ever. It was wonderful. It's everything I always dreamed I would have with my wife. Um, but it it was crazy what it did, that what the stroke did for our relationship, how much closer it made us,
Yeah.
brought us.
And we were already very close.
And it wasn't, and it was not, it was, yeah, it was amazing. And the irony of it was, that was December, and then I know, we're talking about the stroke now, but then comes summertime, here come you're having another breakdown. And
Yeah.
honestly, that, and again, it the breakdowns have a separating effect. It drives a wedge between us, and
Yeah.
we had this amazing closeness, and then this thing came.
But I
It was
don't
a
think
cruel,
this
cruel trick.
time was as breaking, the most recent breakdown. It was more me just being loopy, not being mean to you.
Yeah, no, the breakdown was different. It was
Yeah.
different characteristics to it, but it drove a wedge between us.
Okay.
You may not have felt it. I did for quite a
Okay.
while. For
I
quite a while.
didn't feel it as much, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I because I remember the breakdowns, I remember not being like mean like I was the first time.
No, you were. Maybe a couple times, but no, it was clearly it was entirely different. But
Yeah.
you were still on medication, so it was. I think that was tempering it.
Right, right, right. Okay. So moving on to faith, hope, and staying unshaken through these things. Where would you say your faith got tested the most? Was it through the stroke or was it through the mental illness?
I probably the stroke,
Okay.
because there was such a realistic chance you could have died
Yeah.
at a couple points in time during the process. And I mean, you and I have relived those moments, probably couple hundred times at this point, especially because of the writing of the book, recounting recounting that night, recounting that night,
Yeah.
reading it, talking about it, editing it. No, it was more like this and more
I
like
want to see what chapter that was in case
and
anybody wants to read it.
but going back and thinking that this, from the moment that you had the stroke set in, was really, it was a bit of an anomaly that we were in the position we were in. Typically at that point in time, we're apart, and we happen to be together. Had
Right.
we not been together, you may have been, we don't know what would have happened if I wasn't right there.
Literally right there.
Which again was a bit unusual for me to have been right there. And then that, making the decision in the hospital, which ultimately you made, how scary of a thought that was.
Right.
um, and not of the thought, of actually doing it, and then you decided. um,
By the way,
so
that's chapter 28, December 9th, 2024, the day death tried to steal me in my book, Unshaken.
so there was a lot of praying.
think
that
it's gonna
day
be
and
backwards, yeah.
many days after that. But
Did you ever
I
get mad at God through all of our relationship, or was it just mad
no,
at me?
no,
Just mad at me.
no. I was mad at you about the first breakdown, but we've talked about that 1,000
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I was never mad at God.
Okay. If you could say one thing to a caregiver listening right now, what would that be?
For which one?
I guess you could, if you want to give one
Slightly
for
different
each of
advice.
them. Okay. So give one thing to a caregiver listening right now who is living with someone with a mental illness. What would you say to them?
Well, I'm going under the assumption that the person is struggling with mental illness. I don't
Right.
consider you struggling with it, except when you're going manic.
Right.
Right now, you're not struggling with it. You're taking your medication, you're getting therapy, you're doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing, getting enough
Right.
sleep, et cetera, et cetera. For someone who's living with let's assume it's a spouse, but maybe it's a kid or a parent, insist, insist, insist that they do all of those things. Get the help, see a professional, and make sure you have your own little support group, whatever it is, a couple of people, friends of your own family, whatever it is that you can lean on, call.
Or even the one we went to. Remember Richard Hall in Bridgewater?
Yeah,
When we went to
support
some
group,
of their, that was like,
support,
if
support
you
group. Yeah,
don't have close friends or close family,
yep,
they have services at Richard Hall in Bridgewater, if you're local, where you can go and get help through other people who are going through things similar to what you're going through.
yep. And it's continue to love that person. Continue to remind yourself that more than likely a good portion of what they're saying and doing is it's not really them. It
Right.
is. They're responsible for their own actions. I've always held true to that, but the filter is gone. When
Mm-hmm.
they're in breakdown mode, whatever, for whatever illness they have. When it comes to the stroke, or a big rehabilitating from a physical thing. In a lot of ways, I mean, sure, it's taxing on you physically and mentally, but not to, someone that you love and care about is physically hurt.
Right.
It's a natural instinct to take over. That instinct takes over to care for them, to help them back to health. Uh, if it's not kicking in for that person, then there's something deeper. Honestly, in my mind, there's something deeper wrong. It's like
Right.
caring for a child, a spouse, a parent. That should be a natural instinct.
Right. I'm
You know,
sure it's tough when someone like has a debilitating illness, because you're there helping over time. That's got to be weighing on them. I
sure.
got better pretty quickly from the stroke. I mean, it took some time.
Didn't seem all that quick,
Well,
but you weren't as again, you were not majorly damaged in any one area. You had a
right,
little bit of damage over several areas, so which was
right.
made it. You know,
I'm just saying relatively quick in comparison to someone who has
sure,
something like MS
sure,
or,
yep,
Parkinson's,
yep.
that where
Well,
you're over
those are terminal.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
though that's like being a caretaker through something like that. I'm sure in the beginning you're there and gung ho, and it's probably really hard
I
to,
can't speak for that.
yeah,
That was not going to be the case for you. You were
right.
rehabilitating and slowly getting better. So I can't speak to the
Yeah,
trauma
we can't
stuff.
speak for
That's
that,
out of
but
my league. But
okay.
it's having a relationship with God, a
Yes.
personal relationship with God, because there's no one better or more qualified to have your back, to walk beside you, to carry you when you
Right.
can't walk, and to catch you when you're passing out from weariness, and who will answer the prayer telephone call any time of day,
Right. And
and not an
yeah.
unlimited amount of times a day, always answers. I'm sorry, always listens and answers if you're listening.
Right. Yeah, and we both focus on God and try to teach the children to grow their faith in God so that someday when these challenges, any kind of challenges arise, that they have God to lean on, the way we do. Um, One of the other things I just want to say that's very important is mental health treatment and care is just as important as stroke treatment and care, because sometimes people don't see mental health as important as physical health. And even in insurance, health insurance, whatever, um, both should be treated the same. One is not more important than the other, because if your mental health isn't in check, then your physical health can be affected. And if your physical health isn't in check, then your mental health. They go together. So, and I think some people just tend to not think that way. Do you agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I guess the importance of just staying on task and, um, like you said, help whoever you're trying to be a caregiver for, um, make sure they do what they need to do, or at least try to stay on their medication, see a psychiatrist, see a therapist, get exercise. I mean, one of the things I just did content for is the importance of endorphins and getting your body moving. Um, Especially in the winter in the Northeast, it can be difficult, but um, movement is power, for for your mental stability. Not only good for your health, but also good for your mental health. But that's
The if I may add
yeah.
something, you alluded to it before, but the group therapy that we went to prior to your first breakdown with me,
Yes, at
uh,
Richard Hall.
well, during the spiraling was when we
Yes.
were going. We went, probably did 5 or 6 sessions, which was once a week, I think,
Yeah.
around about that. That was very educational for me, maybe more so for me than for you, just because your mind wasn't,
Yes. I was
well.
right.
Um, but it was very educational for me, because there was, each night there was, anywhere from 6 to 10 other people in the room, and there were no doctors, there was no psychiatrist or anything. It was a group hosted and attended by people with some type of mental illness, anxiety,
Right.
bipolar, whatever. And each of them, you would were the most normal looking people. You,
Yeah.
you would never, again, you would never know. And but what I it listening to them week after week talk about certain things that they were struggling with, it just, everyone is encouraged to answer or to give an opinion to the person who has a question or is expressing a struggle.
Right.
It really opened my eyes to how much people in general struggle, how many people are out there that you would never know are having a problem, and these it runs the gamut, the things that people struggle with.
Right.
But it really made me appreciate what it takes to manage it, and these are people that are aware that they have the struggles, and they
Yeah.
still struggle with it.
Yeah.
It's not like you figure out you have a problem and then suddenly it's all okay. You're still going to struggle with it, And I
Right.
know Denise can speak from experience. She does struggle with trusting her own judgment sometimes,
Yes.
and on some big decisions and little decisions sometimes, and it it's always going to be a little bit more work for those people that struggle from this stuff, but it's not something it's not impossible.
Right.
And as a caretaker, job is to be there, is to be like an addition, just an additional safeguard. You're there for them to bounce things off of and help build them up.
Yeah, and they were able to come to the sessions at Richard Hall. There were some other people had family, friends that they would bring with them, because it helps not only the person to learn more, understand more, but it helps the caretaker to learn more and understand more. So that was definitely beneficial. So anyway, I think that's it. I didn't have any other questions. If you have any questions out there and you're watching, feel free to email me, glorifiedwriting@gmail.com. You can check out my website, glorifiedwriting.com. And I guess that's about it. If you need to maybe ask a question for Ryan, I can get that information to him. I don't know if you want to give your information, but otherwise I'll just get it out to Ryan and get him to answer, and I can send you back what he says. Okay.
Have everyone message you, and anything that applies to me, I'll answer. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Thank you all for listening. The next one I'll be working on is episode 2. I'm not sure exactly if I'm having a guest on episode 2 yet or not. I have spoken to some people, waiting to hear back from 1 or 2. But the next one might just be me. I'm not sure yet. But thank you again, and take care. Be well. Anything you want to say, Ray?
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate
it. Hey, why wouldn't I? You're the best. He's a very good caretaker. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a good night. Bye.
Good night.